people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. What is the EBU flyweight title fight between unbeaten Chloe Watson and Poland's own Jasmina Zapotoczna? A fight that intimidates me because the outcome really isn't quite clear. Chloe Watson is 25 years old to Jasmina, who is 30. Both fighters are orthodox fighters. They both lead with their left to set up their right. Chloe Watson sports an unblemished record of 8 wins with no losses, no draws, no recorded knockouts. Chloe's fast and fleet of foot, but she's not a big puncher. She's not big on power. Neither is Jasmina. Jasmina doesn't really have many more fights than Chloe does. 9 fights to Chloe's 8. But in her 9 fights, I would say that Jasmina has faced better fighters than Chloe has faced. The fight with Shannon Ryan, the win over Maisie Rose. Jasmina's impressed me. She's kind of made a fan out of me. Sporting a professional record of 8 wins with 1 loss, no draws, no recorded knockouts, best described as a statuesque fighter, a long and limber fighter as far as flyweights go, that she's got more height and more length than your average flyweight. Though still not more than Gabby Fundora, this division's undisputed champion. Everybody in this division looks short next to Gabby. Jasmina last saw action in July of last year, the win over Maisie Rose. She had 3 fights last year, 1 in February, 1 in June, then another in July. See that schedule, there was still plenty of time there to get Jasmina another fight before the year was out. She can't complain too much because she did see action 3 times last year, so there's no ring rust to shake off. It hasn't been a year since her last fight. Chloe Watson has been comparatively less active in the previous calendar year. She only fought once, and that was in June. I think she was supposed to fight one more time before last year was out, and I think it was actually supposed to be this fight, but I remember that Chloe became ill or something, and she had to withdraw. It's neither here nor there, because the fight is on. It's happening on Friday, on the undercard of Jonas versus Price. And as stated, the fight is somewhat intimidating to edge, hard to call, because Chloe Watson is a good mid-range to inside fighter. That's her sweet spot. Shows a good lead hand and a good double jab when she needs to show it to close the distance and do it safely. On her toes. She can move, she can pivot, she can cut angles, throw combinations. As stated, she is a good mid-range to inside fighter, though opposite the ring Jasmina, the trial is getting there. Jasmina can shake and bake her opponents. That's how she gave Shannon Ryan all those problems. That's how she beat unbeaten Maisie Rose, by beating those feet, moving around, using her height and length to get off punches from a safe distance. And she's not actually limited to boxing from the outside. Mid-range to inside, she can let go of some combinations as well. She's not flustered there. Like some other taller fighters, she can work. She can box from the outside or bang on the inside. Chloe Watson, before she can do anything, she's gonna have to try to get close to Jasmina, and that's a fight in and of itself. I've seen Chloe's other fights, and I feel like there are too many quiet moments there that I can't trust Chloe to turn the heat up as much as she needs to put Jasmina under pressure. Be consistent. Shannon Ryan managed to beat Jasmina by a hair, just a hair, and it was by being the consistently more aggressive fighter. I don't know that Chloe is going to show that kind of mean streak on Friday. Chloe seems to regularly measure her approach to get in safely, and where that might work with some other girls, that might work against her with Jasmina. It might result in too many quiet moments where Chloe is waiting for the right moment to jump in, and maybe the right moment doesn't come, or doesn't come often enough, because Jasmina is taller and longer, likes to move and punch. Long legs make for long strides, and when she's on the move, she's like a goddamn gazelle. Hard to keep up with, creating distance to set up counters. That's how she was able to beat than unbeaten Maisie Rose.
Stick and move, stay on the outside.
So with Chloe Watson having such a measured approach, I just don't trust that she'll be aggressive enough to keep Jasmina under pressure consistently round after round without paying for it. Because that's the other thing. Get too aggressive, like Maisie Rose did, and you're gonna get walked into punches. You're gonna get walked into counters. How can Chloe win?
How can Jasmina?
It's either Chloe Watson is going to set traps, in a manner of speaking, draw Jasmina's lead so that she can counter it. Get inside, then do the business.
Timing is the answer for Chloe. Movement is the answer for Jasmina.
Maintaining a bit of space between you and her so you can use those long levers to keep her at arm's length and on the outside. Who do I think wins the fight?
I should.
I'm leaning towards Jasmina. I wouldn't stake my reputation on this pick, on this prediction. It could go either way, but I've seen more from Jasmina, and I've been more impressed by Jasmina and what she's been doing, how she's been looking, than I have been by Chloe Watson.
They're not knockout merchants, either of them. So this is a fight that likely goes to a decision.
But I just like the cleanliness of Jasmina's work, the movement, the shot selection, all of it, a bit more than I like what I've seen from Chloe. Now, Chloe can always prove me wrong. She can impress me.
If she wins.
Rise to the occasion, if she can. But so far, I like what I've seen from Jasmina, and I'm going with Jasmina to win a points decision.
On the undercard of Jonas versus Price, this Friday.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, big news as TKO Group partners with Saudis to form new boxing promotion.
We know that Dana White has been trying to break into boxing for years, to no avail. I remember him once saying that boxing is a broken sport that can't be fixed.
Pairing up with Turki Alalshik seems to have changed his tune. Turki Alalshik, the chairman of Saudi Arabia's General Entertainment Authority, on Wednesday announced the creation of a new boxing promotion alongside TKO, the conglomerate that comprises the UFC and WWE, with executive leadership anchored by UFC President Dana White and WWE President Nick Khan. While a name for the new venture was not disclosed, the promotion did announce a plan to stage its first boxing event in 2026 and include a highly structured system to develop new talent from around the world, including athlete combines and academies.
They're already ahead of the curve in terms of promotion because you can promote these boxing matches on the UFC, on the WWE, and expose a very large audience to this brand.
The boxers will have access to the state-of-the-art UFC Performance Institute with locations in Vegas, Mexico City, and Shanghai. It will be TKO's production and media team that will handle in-arena experience and worldwide broadcasts. This landmark partnership between industry powerhouses sets the stage for an unparalleled experience for boxers and fans. Alalshik said, "Together we are developing the next generation of talent and delivering world-class events at a time when the sport is primer for further disruption."
The new venture is just the latest in Saudi Arabia's massive spending on global sports driven by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
Turki Alalshik and Sela, a subsidiary of Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, have staged boxing's top events since October of 2023 with Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. He issued the typical boxing undercards with stacked slates of competitive fights on his Riyadh season cards that mostly take place in Saudi Arabia's capital, but also in LA and London. He purchased The Ring in November, a boxing publication that debuted in 1922, and will stage his first card under that banner on May 2nd in Times Square, with stars Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, and Teofimo Lopez on separate bouts.
Alalshik has organized several high-profile shows, including a pair of Fury versus Usyk
and Dmitry Bivol versus Artur Beterbiev's showdowns with various promoters.
But does working with Dana White on this new promotion not encroach on their territory?
Is it a betrayal?
Honestly, it's no more a betrayal when Turkey works with Frank Warren than when he works with Eddie Hearn or anybody else, because his aim is to work with everybody. So bringing Dana to the table is really just more of the same.
Soon, he'll launch his boxing league with Dana White and Khan, two titans of combat sports. Alalshik, White, and Khan were numbers 1, 2, and 3 respectively on ESPN's September ranking of the most influential figures in the fight game. I wouldn't be where I am today without boxing, White told The Ring. The sport of boxing is where I started. I felt like it was something that could never be fixed until Alalshik showed up. He's done more for boxing than any promoter in the history of sports combined. He's invested more money, more energy, and more passion into this sport than literally ever. There aren't a lot of people I would do a deal like this with. Alalshik said he and White have the same vision, and I trust this league in a short time will crush everything.
I don't know about that. I remember similar claims the night they went head-to-head with Canelo Alvarez, and as it turns out, Canelo's event was bigger and generated more money.
Though it does help that Turkey Alalshik has since signed Canelo Alvarez to a 4-fight deal.
So there's that.
Dana White has long professed his desire to enter the boxing space, unlike the UFC, which White built into a multi-billion-dollar empire that dominates mixed martial arts. Boxing is splintered, with 4 champions in each of its 17 weight classes, and with the fractured nature of the sport that includes various competing promoters, the most obvious, best matchups often elude the fans.
The same thing that makes it frustrating at times is the same thing that makes it great. That when the fights finally do come together and the stars align, well, it's amazing.
It just needs to happen more often. Turkey is assisting in that effort. Everybody knows the format. The best fight the best, White said, who joined UFC in 2001, told The Ring. You work your way up the rankings, and once somebody breaks into the top 5, there's no question who the best 5 guys in the world are in each weight class, and they fight it out. And then, once somebody holds that belt, you don't need 3 letters in front of the belt.
A reference to boxing's 4 sanctioning bodies.
Whoever has that belt is the best in the world, and in that weight class. Khan, too, will be instrumental to the league's success. Before he joined WWE in 2020, Khan was the co-head of TV at the Creative Arts Agency, where he represented many of the top broadcast talents and negotiated media rights, mega deals for the SEC, Top Rank, Boxing, and WWE. WWE has enjoyed record-setting revenue and profitability under Khan's leadership. He spearheaded WWE's global expanse, gobbling up government subsidies for premium live events that formerly were centered stateside. Khan was also instrumental in navigating WWE's merger with UFC to form TKO Group, where he sits on the board of directors. Before Khan became an agent, he managed Hall of Fame fighters Manny Pacquiao and James Toney.
They've made their intentions clear, but there are still a lot of questions.
Addressing the bit about the alphabet organizations. If what Dana White has in mind for this promotion is a bubble,
That ain't gonna work.
you can complain about them as much as you want, but it's not the titles that make the fighter, it's the fighter that makes the titles. And so long as there are fighters fighting for those titles and achieving notoriety, people are going to want to see your fighters in there with those guys. So if what you have in mind is a promotion that operates the same as your UFC, to where you have your own belt,
Your own champions?
it's not going to cut it. It's going to seem like a generic brand of boxing, an off-brand of boxing, if you're not in there mixing it up with everybody else and fighting for those titles.
It'll seem like a world that exists parallel to the world of boxing, but not exactly a part of it if you're not in there with everybody else. And that's where boxing as a sport differs from Dana White's UFC.
When one guy holds all the contracts, he can make any fight within that bubble, but boxing is not a bubble.
It's not the UFC.
If Matchroom has a fighter that people are excited about, or Queensberry, or Top Rank, or Golden Boy, and you have a fighter that people are excited about at that same weight, people are going to want to see them fight, irrespective of what your bottom line is.
I suppose it also matters at what level Dana's fighters will be operating. What are we talking about? Prospects? Contender level? And not champion level?
Because you can only get so far doing that.
Just doing that It'll be a glorified version of The Contender. You remember that old show that Sergio Moro was on? It'll just be a streamlined version of The Contender, if that's what you're thinking.
It cannot be a bubble. That simply won't do.
I don't know with any certainty that that's what they have in mind. We'll see. But there are questions that need answers.
At what level are these fighters going to be competing? Are they willing to make fights with fighters that are with other promoters?
That's been a big stumbling block over the years.
It's the risks that draw people in, after all. The risks that the promoters have to take to put one of their prize stallions in there with somebody else's. That's what draws people in. You cannot escape it.
That's where the real money is.
The money in boxing. We'll talk more about this in another video. In men's heavyweight news, the WBA has ordered WBA regular champion Kubrat Pulev to defend his WBA regular heavyweight world title against Fabio Wardley. We talked about this some weeks ago based on the ranks. I knew this was coming.
Kubrat!
The winner of Pulev versus Wardley must then fight Michael Hunter within 120 days. Wardley is the #1 contender via the WBA.
Sporting a professional record of 18 wins with no losses, 1 draw, 17 knockouts. A heavy hitter.
And one of Queensberry Promotions' prized stallions, to Kubrat Pulev, who sports a professional record of 32 wins with 3 losses, no draws, 14 knockouts, having been knocked out 2 times in 35 professional bouts. That if Fabio Wardley can't make it past a 43-year-old Kubrat Pulev, then we will all have been grossly misled about this fighter and what he can do.
If you want to make it to the big time, you need to be able to beat the Kubrat Pulevs of the world. What is a remnant of the Klitschko era?
He's been around a long time, perhaps too long. At 43 years old, I do trust that Fabio can handle this assignment. He can handle this fight against Kubrat, who saw action 2 times last year. Once in March, then again in December, opposite the ring Mamagüero Char.
Kubrat!
So he doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of ring rust that he needs to shake off, but at 43 years old, you're already pretty rusty.
Kubrat!
To Flavio Wardley, who last saw action in October of last year in what was the Frazier-Clark rematch. That's actually the only guy that he fought all of last year. He fought him the first time in March, then again in October.
I anticipate that he will beat Kubrat Pulev. I think he stops him. Things don't get interesting until after that, because the WBA has so elected to inject America's own Michael Hunter into the mix.
They're giving the winner of this fight 120 days to take care of that guy, and I think he will provide a stiffer test, a tougher assignment for Flavio than Kubrat.
Kubrat!
Michael Hunter sports a professional record of 24 wins with 1 loss, 2 draws, 17 knockouts. Having never been knocked out in 27 professional bouts, it feels like we haven't seen Michael in a while. But believe it or not, he's been fighting, and he's been winning.
Kubrat!
Will you stop yelling Kubrat Pulev? We're not talking about him anymore.
Just like yelling, it feels like having an orgasm.
It's too much information. Believe it or not, Michael Hunter fought 3 times last year. Once in March, again in June, then again in December. These are not high-level fighters he's fighting, but at least he's keeping busy so that if a big opportunity arises, he's ready. About as ready as he's gonna be.
Ready enough that I think he's a good acid test for Fabio Wardley.
36 years old. Not the youngest heavyweight out there, but certainly not the oldest. Remember, Kubrat's 43.
Kubrat!
It's a good run of fights for Fabio Wardley to keep him active. I like the sequence. I like the plan.